Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Smoking Guns podcast. I've been told episode 7, lucky number 7, best one yet. That's a promise. We've not done it yet, but I can see into the future, and I know this one's gonna be the best one yet because we have here 1623. Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, thank you, Andy. I'm Ben.
And I'm Becky.
And I'm the artistic director of 1623.
And I'm doing a year-long placement with 1623.
So we know Ben for a lot of years now. We met him in our beginning of our journey in Derby when we were Derby University students.
Yeah.
And the first time I came across you was through the Shakespeare workshops that you provided at Derby Theatre. And they were really good, and they gave us a really good introduction to Shakespeare. I have read multiple of his plays before I met you, and I had a lot of introductions, but I think it was a different play that I have not seen before, which was Titus Andronicus, as I remember right, which I have not read, not seen. And you did this workshop for us, and it was physical, and it was just got us up doing things, reading the script, reading certain elements of the script, and I really learned a lot from that workshop. And it was a really nice introduction into you as a person and into you doing things with Shakespeare, which I really enjoyed.
Great.
And so what we wanted to do with this podcast was kind of look at you and your journey into becoming 1623 and how you got to this point. So,
Because that was all part of Shakespeare Night, wasn't
yes,
it?
yes.
Which was a monthly workshop. It was part of 1623's participation programme, where Derby Theatre very kindly gave us a room once a month, and we looked at a different Shakespeare play every month.
Yeah.
And lots of different activities. So sometimes I was running them, sometimes Rhiannon Prithik, she was running them as well, and then more recently Shane Lynch started doing that as well, and who was one of your fellow students at Derby Uni.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you felt energised by those workshops, because the thing about Shakespeare is that it's not a book.
Yeah.
Shakespeare is a play, and it's about life, and it's about character, it's about performance, it's about what makes your heart beat faster, it's what makes you angry, what makes your heart sing. It's about things to celebrate. It's one of the greatest things about Shakespeare, in my opinion, is that all of life is in that body of work. 36, 37-ish plays, depending on who you ask. So you've got this complete body of work, and it's all in there. Something that you've experienced will be experienced by at least one of the characters in that play.
Definitely.
And you can engage with that. Sometimes there can be a bit of a barrier with the language sometimes, but then it's our job as artists to find out what those barriers are and to knock them down.
Before you went to university, did you have that kind of connection to Shakespeare already? Was that something that started very young, from a young age?
Yeah, I think I didn't know as much about it when I was younger, but I was really excited by it because it was this sort of it was old and new at the same time, and it was something to try and decode and unlock.
Yeah.
But once you got to that point, you felt, I've got entry into this whole world, and there are other people that are really into it as well, and there are people who aren't into it. So I'm interested to find out what it is that's putting them off, and seeing if there are ways that we can sort of guide people towards it. Some people just don't want to, and that's fine. But it's all about, I think 1623 is all about engaging new audiences with Shakespeare, but not just with Shakespeare, with theatre and the arts more generally. Because although we're a theatre company, we do tend to put Shakespeare at the heart of what we do, but we also have all different kinds of activities like digital arts participation, music, movement, BSL interpretation, all sorts of different approaches really, with Shakespeare at the heart of it.
Yeah, so you...
Yeah, when did 1623 begin? Let's take it back to the beginning.
1623.
Memory lane. Yeah, it was 2005 was when we formed the company, and that was born out of a project that I did with an old school friend of mine, Neil Harris, who goes by the name of Neil Craig now. He played Captain Hook last year at Derby Theatre's Peter Pan. We both love Shakespeare. We both want to share that passion with other people. and for people who might not think it's for them. And that's how it all began. We had lots and lots of tea and drinks and chat in, as it was then, Derby Playhouse Cafe for about 3 hours, I think. They chucked us out at closing time. And we just said, well, we've got to do something with this passion and this excitement. And Neil had been working in pest control at the council, and had always been kind of still holding on to that. I really want to be an actor. I have to be an actor. I need to be an actor. I have to do those things. So he was still holding on to that, and I just finished working at the Arts Council, which was my first job after I left uni. And I was a bit of a crossroads as well. And we both said, well, why don't we just do it then? We're both at that point in our lives where we need to do this. So we founded the company in 2005, after having done a project in 2004 where we performed lots of different love scenes from Shakespeare around an ancient oak tree in Oxfordshire, which sounds quite twee, but it's quite we've come a long way since then. We've come away from that kind of work, really, and we've got a lot more social engagement with the work that we do. And in more recent times, I've been working really closely with Christopher Lydon, who's our producer, a whole team of associate artists, and currently with Becky, who's on a placement from Surrey University. Did you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, tell us about the placement.
Well, it's really exciting. So I started in September, so 3 months so far. We're doing sort of a bit of everything, sort of stuff like this. I've been helping out with the assistant director on a Queer Lady Anne. We've been doing loads, and hopefully we're sort of starting now to plan some participation workshops, aren't we? So that'll be sort of in the new year at some point. So spoiler alert, exclusive sort of. I've been thinking about the idea of sort of like Shakespeare snowflakes, and sort of exploring things with like millennials and stuff with regards to like Shakespeare. So I'm not sure how it's going to go, but hopefully it'll be really exciting.
Sounds really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
There's a lot of themes in Shakespeare that wouldn't necessarily go very well with a millennial mindset, I feel like, or could be misunderstood in that kind of sense, you know.
You did say something there. What is Queer Lady M? What does that mean?
Wow, I feel like I'm not going to give the best description. You go on. No, you
I mean,
do it.
between
I
the
feel
two
like
of
I'm
you.
not going to do it justice. We'll both do it together. You
Sure.
start, I'll chip in.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Go.
Well, Queer Lady M started as an idea a few years ago with your fellow graduate Shane Lynch, who's now Shane Gabriel, who is or has been a drag artist for many years. And Shane used to come to the workshops that he used to come to at Derby Theatre, Shakespeare Night. And Shane and I had a conversation, a very long conversation over a year or so, about his idolisation, his fascination, almost obsession with Lady Macbeth and what that might mean. And he was talking about how Lady Macbeth keeps cropping up at different points in his life. As a cartoon when he was young, a book that his grandma bought him, lots of different stage productions, film productions, and how she filled a gap or a void in his life. So we went to the Arts Council and applied for some support and luckily got that. So that helped us to do an R&D, research and development project. At the end of that, we did a sharing at Derby Theatre Studio, and as part of that process, we worked with Derbyshire LGBT Plus charity, which supports younger and older people who are members of the LGBT Plus community. And we went and worked with their youth group for a few weeks in a row, and we workshopped different aspects of Lady Macbeth and of queerness in Shakespeare in its widest possible sense, not just in the play Macbeth. And as part of that process, we found out what aspects of Lady Macbeth's story really resonate with people today, as well as with Shane as an individual. And it was her gender fluidity, her deep-seated belief she needs to be unsexed in order to do what she needs to do. And that we got to this point where we realised that Shakespeare had put Lady Macbeth into a very binary world of to be male is this and to be female is that. And she's kind of caught up in that world. She speaks the language of the patriarchy, of control and divide and conquer, and men are this and women are that, and you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that. and she's frustrated within that world that Shakespeare puts her in. There are other plays, like the comedies, where the character's gender fluidity is a very positive, celebratory thing, but it doesn't give Lady Macbeth that opportunity to thrive and flourish and be who she needs and wants and is to be. So we were looking at that, all the different kind of aspects of Lady Macbeth in terms of gender fluidity and in the binary world, workshopping all those ideas with the youth group of Derbyshire LGBT+, and with the support of Attenborough Arts Centre in Leicester, who commissioned us to make the full-blown piece. We did the preview of it last Saturday at Attenborough Arts Centre in Leicester, and what was it like, Becky? I was so into it.
It was really, really good. It's nice because it's a piece that really, not depends on, but really thrives off like audience interaction. I think we really got that. There was so much really nice engagement. And even just the little parts, so we gave Shane gave all the audience candles, didn't he? And it created such a lovely effect that I didn't see until that preview how nice it actually was. Everyone was just so engaged. And it kind of brought, something I really love about Queen ADM is like, everyone can kind of relate to it, even if it's not an experience you necessarily had. There's sort of little really sweet bits that can draw everyone in. So for example, when I first saw one of the earlier sort of scratches, something that really made me relate to it was, he talks about a cup of tea made by his gran, and it's just a hot milk with a tea bag that's been waved at it. And that's so sort of silly and trivial, but like that made me think, oh, my mum does that. And even though I've not got that experience, I thought like, drawn in, I feel like that's something that the audience really that's something that really happened on Saturday.
And there's that detail, isn't there, throughout as well. It's a very personal story. So this show is there's two stories going on at the same time. There's the story of Shane, his upbringing and the role that Lady Macbeth played in that, and then there's also the story of Lady Macbeth. So we've put Macbeth in the shadows a little bit and put her centre stage, and we're putting Shane centre stage. And it's about those moments of crossing over of the two characters. And they both fuse together in the character of Queer Lady M, who is a drag persona. So she's not fully Shakespeare's Lady Macbeth, she's not fully Shane. She's a coming together of the two. So like all the detail that Becca was talking about, you've got things like Shane's waiting for his partner to come round for dinner in the opening of the show, and he's asking the audience to help make a romantic atmosphere with him by holding candles, and there's all the little twinkly lights, and he talks about the audience as little glowworms, and then he realises that his partner's not coming round, he's been stood up, so he says to the audience, you can turn your candles off now. And then he's anxious, he's alone. He doesn't know what to do with all of this energy that is built up to, oh, I'm going to have this really lovely meal with this man I really like. And then there's this rejection and this feeling of abandonment. And so he starts chatting with his friends in the audience, has some wine, starts chatting, has some toast. Because, you know, there was going to be a lovely curry delivered, and that's not happened. Just dry toast. And he goes, let's go do with a bit of butter. Oh, butter and marmalade, you know, and that we get quite a nice few titters from the audience there, because it's like, you know, it's this butter, marmalade, orange, lemon and lime, jelly, shredded, jars of marmalade on a shelf, like in my grandma's pantry. And then he starts to talk about grandma's house, and all the objects that are in the room, he rearranges them and explains this is what my grandma's living room was like, and her chair was here and granddad's chair was there, and he builds and he creates and paints this picture of grandma's living room, and that was the room where he first met Lady Macbeth. And he tells us a story that grandma used to get him a video from the corner shop on hire once a week in the days when you had video tapes and players, VCRs, and grandma would get, and one week she got him this film called Leprechaun, because she thought it was a lovely children's film. You know, for those of you who don't know, it's actually an 18 horror.
Yeah.
It's not a lovely children's
No, it's
film.
not.
Which is a lie.
Which is a lie in the play. It's not a lovely children's film. And then another week, well, Shane calls it the Russian roulette of video highs. You know what you're going to get, you're going to or not. And then this particular week, it was a cartoon of Macbeth, and he remembers that, and we go into that memory with him, and he's watching it, and he starts to take on the physicality of the animated Lady Macbeth from the late 1990s. And some of the words stick with him, and he says, I didn't really understand what she meant, but I kind of did. And the bit that she says that sticks in his memory and his remembering is, "Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here." And in the show, he rewinds that bit, and we have that bit again, and he rewinds it, and then lets it go again, and then he comes back into the present. I didn't really know what she meant, but I kind of did. And young Shane saw something in that strong, powerful woman. She was a bit like my mum. And then he starts talking about the significance of his mum, that his mum wasn't around much when he was being brought up, and his grandma brought him up in her bungalow. And there's a day when he talks about imaginary friends in his bedroom. He used to talk to the wardrobe, and he used to put wool over the doorknobs, so the wool became its hair and the doorknobs became its eyes, and he used to talk with it. And he said, and he became his best friend because it listened. And then he goes, I wasn't always lonely. And he said, sometimes my cousin would come round and play. And there's one day when she was giving him a piggyback, and he fell over and banged his head. And at this point, Shane's set up a suitcase to represent him when he was younger, and at that point it falls over and smash, and then he becomes grandma, helping Shane up, phoning for an ambulance, taking him to the hospital, leaving him there, and then on her second visit to him in hospital, she brings him this gift. So she's wearing her big fur coat. She goes, oh, it's warm in here. She puts that on. She goes, bit boring, isn't it? I've got something for you. And she gets her little bag out and she hands him this book. And he goes, Shakespeare's tragedies? What do I want to read that for in hospital? Then he opens up, Macbeth, Lady Macbeth, come you spirits that tend on mortal thought. Thanks, Grandma. So Grandma she's the one that...
Yeah, the neighbour in a way of Shakespeare, right?
She brought Lady Macbeth into Shane's world through the TV and then through the book, and then he used that book as in an audition to prepare for an audition when he was a child actor to be in a touring production of Macbeth, and he got the part, but it wasn't the part he wanted. He got cast as a small boy because, according to the director, he was a small boy. Whereas he wants to play Lady Macbeth, so he's disappointed not to get that part. But what he used to do is he used to stand in the wings and watch the woman playing Lady Macbeth in this amazing production and whisper her words under his breath. And by the end of the tour, he'd learned all her words off by heart. And he remembers that moment of being in the wings, mouthing that we hear the voice of the woman, but of playing Lady Macbeth, but then we see him lip syncing to that, which is then a skill that he developed later when he became a drag artist, when he was lip syncing.
Yeah.
So it all comes together in a way from the beginning. It all carries throughout.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Listening to you and talk about it is very. I want to see it now as well.
Yeah.
Well, you can fart
I will
it.
go see it.
Where then? Where can we see the play if we're willing to see it?
Well, if you're willing. Of course you are. It was, the preview was last weekend, but it was live streamed online.
Oh yeah.
And then that was recorded, and now it's on the website.
Oh, perfect.
What website would that be?
1623theatre.co.uk.
Good. Now we got it.
Slash
Yeah.
Queer Lady M.
Queen Lady M.
And it's all on there. You can watch it for free.
Yeah, we will definitely link that on the podcast. Yeah.
But what if we want to see it live? When are the live performances?
Next
happening?
autumn.
Next autumn.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're planning a national tour at the moment.
And when did the project begin? As in, from the moment you received the funding to from the Arts Council until your first preview last Saturday, how long did that take?
We found out that we've got the funding to make the show after the R&D.
Yeah.
So it's the second grant.
So you did the R&D without the funding?
No, our first grant was R&D.
Oh, okay. You
And
got
that's-
2 lots of funding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the second one was the making of
Yeah.
the show, leading up to the preview.
Yeah.
So from finding out that we'd got the money to make the show to the preview would have been about 10 months.
10 months.
10 months, yeah.
Yeah, and because Shane is still an emerging artist, he's got other jobs as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's not like we could just say, right, we're going to book in for this 4-week period
Yeah, of course.
to rehearse, which is what I'm more used to doing.
Yeah.
So it was just about being flexible and going, actually, no, we can't work that way. It's got to be more prolonged, more staggered,
Yeah.
paced out
Yeah.
throughout a longer period of time.
That's something we found out as well, working together. That
Yeah.
it's really difficult because as a young artist, as an emerging artist, you need to take time off to pay the bills
Yeah.
and then basically slide in theatre whenever you can. So for all the young artists, theatre is a long-term process, and that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why a lot of people give up. We've come to find out, but it's not lack of talent; it's just lack of perseverance in a way.
And money.
And
Yeah,
money.
definitely, yeah.
I mean, let's not shy away from that. There's so many artists and working class artists who don't have those opportunities because they haven't got the bank of mum and dad to help.
That's true.
I think that's pretty much where most of us are at, really. It's how I started out.
Definitely.
I had nothing in my bank account when I started, and you build and build, and you meet other artists, you work with other people, you build up your audience, you keep it going. You've got to be so bloody minded and determined.
That's true.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, I'm sure you've heard about this. When Emma Rice, the ex-director of the Globe, CEO, was she? Artistic director? Artistic director of the Globe. After she left the Globe, her theatre company got a really big lot of funding, bigger than most people would expect from a small company. What did you think about that? Is that something that you think should happen, or what do you think? Do you think it's someone who used to have a position that was quite high up, and then after leaving that position, receive a very big lot of money in order to make work, rather than divvy up that money towards smaller companies?
She didn't get all the money though, personally.
No, of course not. The company.
The company did, and she's also got an artist training program
Yeah.
that runs with it. So, and that's accessible financially for younger artists to take part in as well. So the making of her new show, Wise Children, which is also the name of her company,
Yeah.
and also the development of her artist training program, they happened hand in hand. So the money that Wise Children got was invested in
Creating other artists.
emerging artists' talent development, as well as the creation of a show.
Yeah.
And the creation of a brand new company. And then there were some people saying, oh, well, it's a brand new company, why did they get... Emma Rice has been making theatre for a very long time, and she's brilliant at it.
Yeah.
And we should still be, as a nation, as our national development agency for the arts should be investing in her and her work. And it's not just about her holding on to her work as well, it's about sharing it, and it's about investing in future artistic talent as well.
The reason why I'm asking about Emma Rice is, in our minds, you've become synonymous with Shakespeare in a way. We think about Shakespeare, we think about Ben Stiller.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Well,
it is true.
It's true. It's the truth. What did you think about the Globe when she was there? What did you think about the work she was making at the Globe?
She was exciting. She brought a brand new energy to it. She didn't play by the rules all the time. She was a breath of fresh air. She reworked plays, she restructured, she played around with gender, she played around with text, with the space. And there were naysayers, so you can't possibly have artificial light and sound. Amplification of sound, so yeah, because this theatre does not exist in 1599.
Yeah.
The audiences that go to this theatre do not come from 1599 or whenever whatever year we're going to pick. And although I used to really enjoy the earlier work of the Globe before Emma Rice took over, there was this sense of most of the productions, not all of them, but most of them painstakingly recreating the historical world on stage.
Holding on to it.
Yeah, but made with love,
Yeah.
made with attention, made with great skill and detail. And yet, as an audience member from the year whenever, 2012, whatever, you walk in, and there's this recreation around you. And the world on stage is 1602 or whatever it is. And I'm a little bit like, well, hi, we're not from that time.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? And how are you trying to engage us in the audience? Yeah, they did engage people in the audience, but it was in a very traditional way. And what Emma did was, especially with a production called Imogen, which was based on Cymbeline, she was engaging local audiences from council estates. She brought in working class audiences and artists engaging with each other. That had never happened before. And I kind of want to see more of that, and I think we all want to see more work
Well, I
like
think
that.
you're doing that. I think you're one of the companies that does that. And I remember you were telling us about, was it Macbeth in the cave?
Oh, yeah.
What was it? Tell us a little bit about that, because that sounds like something, taking the classic, which is the thing that you're great at, is taking the classic works of Shakespeare and recreating something new. So reimagining, retelling. Tell us a bit about other projects apart from Queer Lady M that you've made.
Well, when we started out, it was all about the venue and the space and the relationship with the audience. So it was all about visiting exciting places and then working out which Shakespeare play would best serve that space, and vice versa, which Shakespeare play would serve.
So very almost site-specific, site-immersive.
It was. That's how we started out. And so we went to the cave, Paul's Cavern in Buxton, as part of the Fringe, and we did Macbeth in there. A couple of years later, we did Hamlet in there as well. And for Macbeth, we filled the cave with fog and candlelight. It was all lit by candles all the way through. And our three weird sisters who lived in the cave were waiting for our audience in the gift shop. And then when we got clearance, they took the audience through into the picnic area, and it was all lit by candles and flaming torches. Brought us all into a big circle, as if to perform some kind of ritual with us. And then Macbeth and Banquo walked past. Well, the end of the battle's coming, and they're on their way home. That's where their focus is. We're there to meet with him. We're going to do something with him. And so they performed their first scene, and then they guided the audience into the cave, the twists and the turns of Paul's Cavern. You didn't know what was going to be around the corner. Was there going to be an actor waiting for you to perform a scene? Was there going to be a dead body? Was there going to be a big candle? And the Weird Sisters with the guides throughout the whole show. It's just 3 actors with an audience of about 50, guiding them through, and so you'd find Macbeth and Banquo having a bit of a rest on their way home, and then suddenly they see these 3 weird sisters with the audience, and we turn a corner and there's Lady Macbeth reading her letter from Macbeth. We turn around another corner, here's a river with staircase, rickety wooden staircase, and we use that's kind of the centrepiece of the whole show really, where right at the very top was the murder room where Macbeth killed the king, and there was quite a journey for Macbeth and Lady Macbeth to go on to get to that point, and all the rest of the scene was performed up and down those stairs with the audience looking up from the bottom there. Yeah, it was really exciting. And with Hamlet, we worked with Maison Fou, who did the play within the play. So it was 1623's Hamlet with Maison Fou's Murder of Gonzago, which was the play within the play, and they brought their great Fou style, lots of clowning, character-based clowning, puppetry, lovely movement they did with that, and it was very different to what the other actors were doing, which heightened the theatricality of the play within the play. And they were central in as much as they were working, the players that Maison Fou played were working with Horatio, Hamlet's best friend, to tell the story of Hamlet, because Hamlet's dying wish to his best friend Horatio is tell my story to the yet unknowing world. And Horatio, in our version, honours that and delivers that. He's a philosophy student, he's not great at telling stories, so he goes to see the players, and together, the three of them, the two performers from Maison Fou and Horatio, put on this performance for the audience to tell the story of Hamlet. So they start, between them, they conjure up the ghosts of the characters, they reanimate the bodies of the dead at the end of the show. And the whole show was a flashback of how Horatio gets to that point of making that promise to his best friend to tell his story. But yeah, there's lots of different places.
Sorry, I think we have an intruder. Yes, sir.
We've got a meeting booked in here at 1:30.
Great. We'll be ready.
Okay. So
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be ready.
Okay. Is it 1:30 already?
We're just gonna stop the podcast here. Hopefully we'll be able to continue it in a second, but if not, you won't know anyway. We might just change locations. Thank you all for watching. Hello everyone, we're back. We have teleported into a different space. I have different clothes on. This is the magic of the internet, podcasts and theater. We also want to thank Quad for giving us now 2 spaces to do this podcast in. Thank you, Ben, for arranging that. And also, we're going to ask you now a little bit about, so we've spoken about the way you make work as a company, the way you adapt Shakespeare and change it for modern times. But how would someone go about doing that? How would young theater makers, young people interested in Shakespeare, how would they modernize it? How would they make it actual?
Well, first of all, don't fear it. It's not on a pedestal, it's not behind a piece of glass in a museum. It's something you can play with. It's a starting point. What is important to you? What is important to your audience and or your participants? And then find those moments in Shakespeare's plays that relate to what's important. So have a question to ask, have something to change about the world, have something to get angry about or celebrate about. Find out what it is that's making your heart beat fast. What is it that is wrong with the world that needs changing? What is great about the world that needs celebrating? All of those things, aside from Shakespeare, in the world today, what are the most pressing issues? What are the most exciting things about being alive today? What connects us as human beings? What separates us as human beings? Interrogate all of that, and then you'll find something in Shakespeare. It might be a character, it might be a scene, it might be an interaction between 2 or more characters, it might be a line of text, a speech, a word, some kind of resonance between what is important today, questions to raise in the world today, and then finding those moments in Shakespeare that relate to that. Instead of going back, we're going to look at this Shakespeare play and then mining that one. If you haven't got that passion and knowledge for that play in the first place, then how are you going to be able to do that? So it's about you and the people around you and the world around you. That's your starting point. and you will find something in Shakespeare. Talk to other people that know something about Shakespeare and say, I'm thinking of doing this, and it's about love, or it's about racism, or it's about gender politics, or it's about race, and go and talk to somebody about Shakespeare and tell them that, and say, what is there in Shakespeare that taps into that? What characters, what speeches, what scenes? It doesn't have to be a whole play. I mean, quite often with 1623, we won't do a full Shakespeare play as is, because the texts themselves are unstable things. Shakespeare had nothing to do with the publication of any of his plays, because other people did it. He didn't write out everything, the whole play, 12, 15, 20 times for each actor. He didn't have time. He was too busy getting the next one ready, or being in the plays, or paying people and sorting out the shares in the playhouse. Well, that's that kind of thing you know about, the producing side of things as well. All of that stuff. He was too busy to write all that. And also to sit with a stationer and a printer and get all the individual little letters and line them all up. It would take weeks just to do that for one play. He hadn't got time to do it. So other people did it. Actors who were out of work, who recited bits of the play from their memories to earn a little bit of money. If they hadn't been cast in something, they could do that. And also people who, the actors had just their own lines. So you'd have your cue line, your speech, and then the cue line for you through the next bit of your speech. That's all you had. So the actors had all these scraps of bits of paper. It was about bringing all of those together, plus the material that out-of-work actors had put together with stationers, and putting all of that together. So 7 years after Shakespeare died, 2 of the actors in the company got all of that material, put it together, and tried to put together as close as what they could get to the complete works of Shakespeare. And that was 7 years after he died, in the year 1623. So that was as close as they could get. So these are not the gospel of Shakespeare. We don't know exactly what he wrote. We can play with this material. If that scene doesn't work in practice, do we really need it? Can we rework it somehow?
I find it interesting though, you're talking about using it as a springboard to then inspire you to do something that you're interested in. That's what I love personally about Shakespeare, that even after 400 years, people find new ways of portraying his words. And these might be animated stories, this might be video games, it might be new art forms that haven't even existed 400 years ago and are used now to portray his words. And I love how they work nowadays. And then they work in a way that we all understand. I mean, you talked about it earlier, but that's something that always captivated me, is watching a Japanese performance of Macbeth. And feeling the same way or differently about the way I saw a One in a Barn, a couple of months ago down south, and it is just how you can just take the text and just apply it to yourself and your own environment and your own culture, and then make your own Macbeth, and you personalize that towards that. And that's what I really love about Shakespeare.
And that, as long as it's got something to say about the world we're living in, otherwise it just becomes a museum piece and it belongs to the past. It's a heritage thing. For it to be theatre, it has to be alive. It has to have something to say. It has to have something to question, something to confirm, something to celebrate. And it's all ultimately about a group of people coming together to have an experience, have a story, essentially. And I know we can tie ourselves up in knots about the text and what did Shakespeare mean with that. We don't know. We'll never know. So it's about, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to the people around you? What does it mean to us? And that's your starting point, not serving this full text from 1602.
That's what some theatre people really struggle with, is text, and then what are you allowed to show with, because you have playwrights that are very particular on each word meaning that thing, and I feel like that pressure shouldn't be put on Shakespeare, like you said.
I mean, the emotions, the ideas, the politics, the supernatural, all these different things, the big ideas in life and beyond, are there, beyond the language in a way, because you look at Shakespeare's been turned into opera, it's been turned into dance, it's been turned into visual art, it's interpreted in different art forms as well, and it's not all serious and worthy either. It can be quite fun too. So I mean, there's something that a workshop activity that we do quite a lot at 1623, which is to get into the Shakespeare beat, because a heartbeat is something we all understand. Even if we can't hear a heartbeat, we can feel one. Let's do it. To be or not to be, that is the question. Yeah, it's there. To be or not to be, that is the question. Yeah. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? The beat is there. It's the heart. It's the human heartbeat. It's there that underpins a lot of Shakespeare's writing.
Yeah.
And if you're flailing around and you can't get your head around stuff, just get the beat going. Tap it out, stamp it out, get some drums out, get a beatbox, whatever. Just get the beat going, and then just move to the beat, and then say the words to the beat. And one of the really exciting things about the Weird Sisters in Macbeth is that they take the human heartbeat and they invert it. So instead of it being dum, it's dum 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 the sharks come in, so you can get that, let's get the stamping going, let's get our beat going, I'm going to say some words, count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and say them back. When? Yeah. When shall we three?
When shall we three?
When shall we three meet?
When shall we three meet?
When shall we three meet again?
When shall we three meet again?
In thunder.
In thunder.
Lightning.
Lightning.
Or in rain.
Or in rain.
Together. In thunder, lightning, or in rain.
In thunder, lightning, or in rain.
In thunder, lightning, or in rain.
In lightning, or in rain.
When the hurly.
When the hurly.
When the hurly-burly.
When the hurly-burly.
When the hurly-burly's done.
When the hurly-burly's done.
When the battle
When the battle
is lost and won.
is lost and won.
That will be air.
That will be air.
The set of sun.
The set of sun.
Okay, good, okay. Where the place?
Where the place?
Upon the heath.
Upon a heath.
There to meet with.
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 A Macbeth.
Macbeth. Nice.
Yeah, and that's the first scene of the play.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 weird sisters. One asks questions. They don't know the answers. Second one gives the answer. Third one gives a bit of extra information. The first one is, when are we going to meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain. So choose the weather you want to meet in. When are we going to meet again? And the answer is, when the hurly-burly's done. Then we go, what does that mean? What's hurly-burly? Oh, the next line explains it. When the
Battle is lost and won.
when the battle is lost and won. So the hurly-burly is the battle, and when it's lost, how can a battle be lost and won at the same time?
Once I lose it, once I win.
Exactly. So it's a bit like double speak. It's lost and it's won, but it does make sense. But it could, two opposites happening at the same time. So lost and won. That will be air. So the air is an old English word for before. The set of sun. So when?
Before the set of sun.
Yeah.
Sunset.
Before the end of the day. Yeah. How does the weird sister know that the battle's going to end before the end of the day?
Yeah. Omniscience, omnipotence,
Yeah.
magic.
maybe she can see into the future. Maybe she just sees lots of really tired soldiers and thinks, yeah, I've seen this before. It's gonna, it's coming to the end. It can be quite a supernatural.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't have to be. It can just be someone who's just been through life.
Yeah.
That's an amazing way of just really quickly then giving us an understanding of Shakespeare, of something that keeping the same words that people might struggle with, but just putting them in a different light so it's a lot easier to understand.
Yeah.
We're doing a festival at the moment. We're working with the Mighty Creatives. We're doing the Emerge Festival on the 6th of April in Sandwell. We're gonna be there, so you should be there too. But when we went to a training just in order to learn how to help children and young people work with Shakespeare and how to help them understand it better, who was there to help us and give us a workshop?
The Master of Shakespeare.
Master of Shakespeare.
Who? Oh, right. Okay.
Ben Smith.
Yeah. And we always talk about that workshop. We always try to go back to what you said there and incorporate it into all of the lessons we do with the young people.
Great.
So that's just in 2 hours that you work with us.
Yeah.
We're managing to stretch that, and it helps us work with the young people in Shakespeare in a way that we've never done before. Becky, you said you're gonna do some workshops as well for 16 to 23. Any way we can find out a little bit of what type of works they're gonna be, any exercise they're planning to do?
So I'm not sure of yet, but I'm writing a blog, aren't I, with sort of the past workshops. You can get an idea of what sort of thing that's on there, and the future ones, what's coming up, and that will be on all the 1623 social medias. And on our website, so any more information we'll put straight on there. So
Becky, do you want to talk a bit about your brilliant Shakespeare seance?
yes, why not? So that was 2 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
Yes, so we had a Shakespeare seance, and I was Becky, the call medium, and we were summoning spirits from the Shakespeare text, weren't we? So we did some exercises. We did we took some lines of the text, and then we had Ophelia, didn't we? We had her stronger sort of quotes and her weak ones, because I hate that idea, and then we had those sort of facing off, didn't we? So we had some sort of tableaus and then coming to life, and we had a bit of Beatrice and Benedict, and had sort of a bit of a side story moment with 2 lines, and Ben got very, very sassy. I felt threatened actually at one point.
yeah, I think we've seen that one as well.
I've seen, yeah. And then at the end, was actually able to channel the spirits of both Beatrice and Benedict all in one. That was intense, wasn't it? And then we had a bit of Richard III showed up at one point, and that was scary. Yeah, it was really
Scary person.
Yes, yeah, it was unexpected, it was scary. Yeah, it was a really good workshop. Yeah, so sort of stuff like that, but not as scary.
Yeah.
There won't always be spirit.
Well, the first workshop we did, the first thing we did before we even got into the text, we learned how to make fake blood.
Right.
It was the Macbeth one.
Yeah.
With the fake blood.
And they would put on the faces, and then we did the lines to the blood.
And that's how the workshop began. So you start in strong, and then we look at the words, which is exactly what you're talking about, that the text is not sacred, and it just can be something that comes afterwards, which is something we've been struggling a little bit with the young people we're working with, is getting them, the schools where we work are always very scared. Teachers seem to always be very scared of saying the word Shakespeare in case they put young people off, going, oh no, Shakespeare, I don't do Shakespeare, I don't like it. It's just introducing it as, oh, we're just going to be doing this exercise without children knowing that it's Shakespeare. But we want them to know that it is. We want them to know that.
Not a trick.
Exactly. We're not here to trick you. We want you to know that this is what you're doing. You might not like it, but at least you should be aware that this is Shakespeare that you're doing now, even though you're just making fake blood with cornstarch and red food coloring, I think. But this is still Shakespeare that you're doing. It's still based on that. So.
I think that's sort of going back to what we were saying earlier about it just being a sacred text that then you pull apart in English class. You learn to be born. You don't explore. You don't make fake blood and have rap battles, and you don't do that. So when you say Shakespeare, you kind of hear this growing around the whole classroom. It was the same in my school. And then when you find something so much like this, it's so refreshing to be able to engage with it and like it.
We did Fermi and Frisbee with them, and we had a really interesting experience with them because it is such it's a sad story, but the way it is portrayed, Miss Monet's Dream, is very hilarious and very comedic.
Yeah.
And we did a rendition for them of playing. So I played the I read the prologue, and Harry did all the characters one by one.
Yeah.
And, you know, the death scene.
So
And-
coming on as Pyramus, and then Thisbe, and then coming across the wall.
And then we gave them the chance to them perform it
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
And what we pushed was the ridiculousness of it.
Yeah.
And just really try to amplify it as much as you can. And then we had a group of, you know, shouting lions just roaring around and some walls blocking people. And that's the kind of idea that we wanted to give them, as kind of like, see it not as something to be afraid of, but
Yeah.
something to play around with.
It's breaking down the stilted nature that people get taught Shakespeare, I think, in school, where it is that, you know, you pick a text and then every person reads so many lines and then you go on to the next and the next, and it's just...
With no kind of rhythm, just stumbling through the lines. Because we talked about a lot of, you just get a script given to you, you don't then perform it and think, oh, what, how could I play this character? You think, oh, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, I sound like an idiot. And then
I
you
don't
get
know
so
this
bogged
word.
down.
I
Yeah,
don't know
what does
this
this
word.
mean? And whereas if you just feed them, like we do it in workshops all the time, you just feed them a line, then if you've heard someone speak it already, it's so easy to repeat it back, like we all just did. If you'd given us a script just then, that would have been a very different story.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we got told in university is that usually foreigners are a little better at learning Shakespeare because they learn it as an extra language on top of English,
Yeah.
rather
Wow.
than people who speak English natively who just have these add-on words.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
And I'm not really sure because I don't know how a natively born English speaker would understand Shakespeare. I think I had it as an add-on as well rather than a new language.
Yeah.
It's just most of the words were quite easy.
I was
Yeah.
afraid of my
As well.
accent, definitely. When I was performing Shakespeare, I just felt sometimes out of place because a lot of the words didn't fit in my mouth. And I tried my best, and I was just afraid of not sounding English enough at points, and that was,
Yeah, especially.
Follow me.
for a year
To be
to be
or not to be.
or not to be.
That is the question.
That is the question.
Whether it is nobler in the mind
Whether it is nobler in the mind
to suffer
to suffer
the slings
the slings
and arrows
and arrows
of outrageous fortune,
out of
outrageous fortune,
outrageous fortune,
or to take arms
or to take arms
against a sea of troubles,
against the sea of troubles,
and by opposing end.
and
That's that's your voice.
yeah.
Those words. It's there.
Yeah. No, definitely, and I love it, and I love that monologue as well. And then when he talks about mental health and how he talks about his own mental health, and really relate to Hamlet in that sense. But I feel like there's that natural fear, and it fell away when we performed together, and we had a great time in The Tempest and being Macbeth. But I think it's just a natural fear that I had, because it is put on that pedestal, and it is the English play, kind of like, in that
It's
mindset.
the right way.
And
Yeah,
there's a
it's
right
right.
way of pronouncing. There's the P, is it RP? RP.
RP.
Oh,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
stop.
And then when I went to drama school, being afraid of my own accent and my own individuality,
Yeah.
kind of, there is that kind of fear when you enter the acting world.
There's this thought that Shakespeare is sacred, which is a bit odd. I was actually going to ask you how
It's
you feel
wrong.
about this.
So
Well, yeah,
boring.
yeah. But do you think that there's anything that should be done with Shakespeare, something that shouldn't be done?
No,
Just...
he's an artist.
Yeah.
Shakespeare's an artist. We are artists. We collaborate. He might be dead, but we're still collaborating with his material.
Why do we have so many people that are just traditionalists about Shakespeare, that really believe
Because
that it
they
should
buy
be?
into the myth of the national playwright,
Yeah.
of the quintessential Britishness or Englishness,
The Bard.
of which that is a myth. Newsflash, it is a myth. RP, received pronunciation. Tell me, what part of Britain is the place where people speak RP?
Nowhere.
The palace.
Or is it London? No,
It's
London.
not indigenous to
No.
any part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is fabricated, it is learnt, and it's all bound up with the class system. To speak a certain way is to speak in a codified way. is to be part of a circle of people who communicate in that very particular way. Nowhere on this island or nearby is that a natural voice. It's learned. You know, you've got regional voices. I don't even like to say regional accents, because accent makes it sound like there is a standard, and then you're accented from that. There's an accent. Bollocks. It's different voices. Your voice, your voice, your voice, your voice, my voice, our voices. Shakespeare is ours. Is our birthright. He belongs to no one and everyone. The language is strangely familiar. It's English, but not as we know it. So there is the extra bit of effort we have to put in, but once you put it in, it comes back, and you're rewarded with it.
And I feel like a lot of young actors need that kind of, that speech, you know, that understanding that you are allowed to use your own voice when you act.
Oh yeah.
And that is something that myself have been struggling a lot, because people say, oh, I like your accent, I like that you, and it just always makes me feel more foreign, you know, when people say that. And I think that is something that I struggle with necessarily, but it is that having to want to sound English in order to act.
If I were to say to you, I like your accent, then I'm telling you that my voice is a standard and your voice is a variation on it, but there's an accent. No, you have your voice, I have my voice, we have our voices.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful place to end it, I think.
Yeah.
I want to thank both of you for being here. Becky, Ben, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for helping us. We're going to take everything that we've talked about today, we're going to edit it magically, and you're going to have the best podcast ever. I also want to thank our first ever fan. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but we've been hearing it throughout it, but that's our first fan. And also, Ben, can you tell us what we're going to be talking about next week?
Yes. Next week, you're going to consider the various career options of Theresa May. Is that right?
Great,
Yeah.
great. That's definitely something we can try. Or if that fails, because we don't have anything to talk about, we're just going to discuss what type of Japanese dog is cuter, the Akiba, the Shiba Inu, or the Chow Chow. Thank you very much. That was episode 7. Hope you have a great day. Please subscribe below. Please check the links from 6 and 23, and we'll see you all in episode 8. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.